Hi everyone, my name is Holly, and in today's video I am going to be sharing with you all of the books that I read in March. So this month was incredibly exciting for me, and I'm sure it was really exciting for you if you watched my March TBR, and that was because I decided to delve into a extremely hyped series that pretty much everyone has read except for me, and that is the entire Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Everybody seems to love this series, and I have been slowly collecting all of the books. I have even pre-ordered some of them because I had very high expectations for them, and that's really rare for me to do, pre-order like the 5th book in a series when I haven't even started the first book yet, but that's what I did. But before we go into that series, I did finish up a book that I had started in February, and that was The Oddling Prince by Nancy Springer, and this comes out May 15th. So I feel like this is a book that people are going to either absolutely love or hate. So it follows our main character Eric, and yes, finally a male protagonist in YA. Sorry, I was super excited about that element. But he is a young prince who lives in a very lonely kingdom in northern Scotland. His father, the king, is unfortunately dying because of a really strange and spooky ring around his finger, but luckily for him, a fae, that's right, fairies, suddenly appears and removes the ring from the king's finger and saves his life. Well, not all is what it seems when history reveals itself, and I really don't want to spoil it any more than that. So while the writing was gorgeous and extremely detailed, it was really clunky for me for some reason. I kept stumbling over words, which is very unlike me, and it's definitely the style of writing that this author has. It just doesn't mesh with me. And the plot was a little bit too hasty as well. It definitely reads like a fairy tale, and it was really hard to have time to grasp onto the characters and the situations that they were in. And man, the characters, I really wanted to love them, but their relationships just seemed so unrealistic and kind of clingy. And see, this is where I think a lot of people are either going to be, oh, this relationship is so sweet and so warm-hearted, and others like me are going to be like, no. All in all, extremely descriptive writing, but there was something about the story that I struggled to connect with. So I ended up giving this one 2 out of 5 stars. So now it is time for the main feast, and the next book I picked up, can you guess what it is? That is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, which is the very first book in the Throne of Glass series. I bet a lot of you guys are just sitting there waiting, twiddling your thumbs. Come on, Holly, bring up Throne of Glass already. Well, here it is. So what I'm going to say about this is that I am officially Sarah J. Maas trash, and you can find me in your nearest alleyway. Perfection, utterly magnificent, superb world building, epic fantasy. There's seriously a lack of descriptive words to describe this book. Okay, hold on, things are about to get serious here. Celaena Sardothien is the most notorious and famous assassin of all of Ardalan, but she was betrayed, captured, and sentenced to an Endovir, a salt mine prison. And yes, I'm probably getting all these names wrong, but that's alright. After facing a grueling year of her sentence, she is finally given a glimpse of freedom, but it comes with a price. She must enter a competition that is being held by the king, and the winner gets to be the king's champion. However, during the competition, a lot of the champions that are also entered in the competition began to be maliciously murdered by something very dark and evil lurking within the castle, which is a freaking plot point that I didn't even see coming a mile away. Celaena is literally a perfect heroine, and she is not only a bad A assassin, but she's also really strong and funny. Oh, and the romance, I just can't wrap my feelings around them. Dorian was a sweetheart, yet Kale reminds me of Azriel from A Court of Thorns and Roses, and yeah, in this book I just couldn't decide. Like, my heart can't take it. So all in all, I ended up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. I am the type of reader where I normally like the first book in the series a ton. I love world building. I love being introduced to characters. And yeah, I do know that it only gets better from here. So the next book I obviously picked up was Crown of Midnight, and don't worry, the rest of this video and my reviews are going to be no spoilers. I'm going to be as vague as possible, but this is book 2 in the Throne of Glass series, and it literally continues on after the events in the first book. So I'll admit, I found the beginning of this book to be quite a bit slow, but that didn't stop me from shoving my face in between the pages. The character development in this one is so amazing, and the plot arc and the pacing was just so incredible, and everything comes together so well. It's like the perfect balance of romance and action and mystery and drama as well. I love how Celaena is so much stronger in this book, but also it really feels like she's at her most vulnerable because she's fighting so hard for a good future. The characters are all really complex, but they also change a ton throughout the life events in this book, and I absolutely love that because that doesn't mean that they're just static characters. Certain relationships just work so well at different points. My only complaint is that I did get a little bit lost throughout the conspiracy between characters. There's a lot of back and forth of like, she did it, no he did it, no I actually did it, it's my fault, wait you both did it, no never mind. Like, there's just a lot of jumping between who to blame, I guess. But I ended up giving this one 4.25 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. So the next one that I picked up was The Assassin's Blade, which is actually like the prequel to the series, not necessarily the third book, but I wanted to read them in publication date order, and this one was next. I knew what was coming. I knew how the story would end. I thought I was prepared for it, but I was so wrong. I told myself 100 times over to not fall for this character. But what did I do? I fell for him hard. So The Assassin's Blade is a collection of short stories that take place prior to the Throne of Glass series. And its purpose is to basically introduce you more personally to Celaena. Each set of stories consist of new characters and new locations and plot twists, but viewed as a whole, they tell an awesome tale about Celaena. Thank God these novellas exist. This was the best possible way for me to get to know Celaena, where she comes from and why she acts the way that she does and what made her who she is. Even though they don't take you literally to the beginning of her journey, it allows you to see what she was like and how shattered she was and how now she's trying to pick herself up. It's impossible for me to pick a favorite novella because this entire book was amazing. It's definitely my favorite book so far in the series, and that's a shock to me because normally novellas aren't that way for me, but just this as a whole was perfect. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It broke my heart, and it made me, I wasn't completely sold on Celaena yet, but this made me love her so much, and again, I'm glad these exist. So the last book I read this month, and I also just finished it today, is Air of Fire by Sarah J. Maas, book 3. So going into this book, I knew that this was where things start to take a turn, and everyone is right. The environment and the vibes in this book are just totally different compared to all of the other ones so far. But this novel is where we buckle down and everything begins to take off. And I did really enjoy it for many reasons. We finally get out of that freaking drafty castle. We start to gather some answers to a good deal of vague plot points within this series, like the rebel cause. And we see some major growth involving Celaena and her destiny. And I finally met Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones in this book, but for some reason she's called Manon. I don't know why. I'm just kidding, sorta. I absolutely adored Manon. Those are probably my favorite chapters in the whole book. The sister stole the whole show, even though she's a carbon copy of Daenerys. I was completely engrossed in these sections about the 13. I could seriously read entire books about Manon, and I would not complain. And now my thoughts concerning Rowan. That's right, I finally met Rowan, the very infamous character that I see everywhere and everyone raving about. But I definitely think he's my least favorite love interest. He just seems really mean and brash and kind of abusive. And I know he's nursing his own wounds and all that stuff and his own past, but my Hufflepuff signals were triggered, and there was just something about him that I didn't vibe with. And I'm definitely a Durian girl. Like, those blue eyes and dark hair, like, that's the guy I'm rooting for, to be honest. So all in all, I ended up giving this one a 4 stars, maybe a 4.25. I'm like stuck in between there. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to continue on. So that is it for my March wrap up. Now I am going to go ahead and go on to my April TBR, because I felt like it was kind of pointless to make a separate video for that, since I'm just going to be finishing off this whole series. So in April, I am going to be reading Queen of Shadows, which is book 4, Empire of Storms, which is book 5, and last but certainly not least, because this seems to be a lot of people's favorites, Tower of Dawn, which is a collection of short stories revolving around Kale. I am so incredibly excited to go into this one specifically. This is the one that I've been eyeing this entire time. I've been eyeing for years when it came out, because a lot of emotion circulates around this book, and I am very scared going into it, but I am so ready for it. It's also my favorite color. It's my favorite cover. So yeah, things are gonna happen, and it's gonna be scary, but I think I'm ready. So yeah, that is it for my April TBR. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up, because it helps me out so much. Don't forget to subscribe, and also follow me on Instagram. I'm at Holly Hearts Books, and also on Twitter, I'm at Holly Niece. And until we meet again, happy reading.